listening to the Faith and Friction Podcast with your hosts, Mac and the Rev. Welcome to the conversation.
With Mac and the Rev. So you got the Mac, hey Rev?
I'm here,
All right, man.
and accounted for.
Got my brother here, man. This is always so fun when we get together and do this. So thanks for taking the time to do it as always. We love these times, and we love the times even before we get to the mic.
Me
don't
too.
we?
I feel like this is my weekly sort of think tank. Here's a place during my week where I don't have to worry about ideas being thrown out. Maybe I don't even agree with them, or I don't know. Throw them out, and I can put them into the playground, and Mac and the Rev just play with them like
That's
Play-Doh. What can we create out of this, or what do we not create?
The beauty part of that is we can always create something out of it somehow,
Yes.
some way. I think we're really good at that, and I appreciate your ability to be able
It's
to do
always
that.
got value. I think sometimes the exercise of just playing with the ideas is as beneficial as the end product.
I totally agree, without a doubt. And here we are. I'm wearing the colors today for anybody that's watching
Saluting the Red
video.
Wings.
The Red Wings, the Wed Wings. So we're actually having a year this year, man. I just had to wear the colors today. Yeah, it makes me even more excited because I get jacked up about this.
Well,
whole thing.
I don't have any colors on, but I am the West Coast in me is shooting for the Super Bowl, a Seattle win. I hope it doesn't alienate anybody from Boston.
Well, that's their problem, not yours. So good stuff. Yeah, good stuff going on all the way around. So guess what we're talking about this episode? I love this. He's one of my favorite guys, to be honest. Joseph Campbell, man. The guy, he's the myth guy. He's the myth guy. And
He was one of the originals that was not afraid to challenge authority, to challenge status quo, and to challenge the current paradigm.
he's our kind of guy, right?
Yep.
That's what we're all about. Mr. Myth, we're going to really dig in, and this is where we're going to take off from, all right? If you want to change the world, there's a big if, okay? Hopefully, if you're listening to us, you do. If you want to change the world, you have to change the metaphor. Joseph Campbell.
I had never heard that quote before. I
Yeah.
don't know how I have missed it in all of my study, but I love it.
Yes, I do too. It's the way we relate things to other things, to be able to understand things that we might not had we not used the comparison.
And it's foundational to what I teach every Sunday, and that's change your thinking, change your life.
Yes.
Change the way you're looking at things, I think Wayne Dyer said, and then the things that you're looking at change. Change the internal world, and then things shift on the external world.
If you're willing, right?
Yeah.
It
But you
takes
got to be
some work.
willing, otherwise nothing changes at all, and it stays status quo.
The scenery never changes if you're not the lead dog.
It's nothing changing. You might want to take a look inside.
Except for getting older. That one you can't help. So anyway, we want to talk about metaphor. We want to talk about as we press into change and we see, first of all, we go back to friction, right? When things change, they naturally create friction.
Absolutely. And causes us to actually look at friction in a different way.
Correct.
The metaphor of friction as something tearing down or something bad or as something that's possibility, that's living into possibility. Changing that very perspective alone makes, I think, growth happen, learning happen. But you've got to change the thought on the inside. Otherwise, friction's just an argument. It's a fight. It's a possibility for goodness.
As opposed to a fight, it's a possibility.
Mhm.
There we go. Friction is a possibility. Is that a metaphor? All right.
Close enough for me.
So we change the societal narratives. We've all got our own narrative, whether it's individual, whether it's your tribe, whether it's your people you hang around with, whatever it might be. We all have these commonalities, the way that we narrate our
There's
life.
a basic
and-
program that's
know?
running the human consciousness, individually and collectively. Let's just start there.
Mhm.
There is a basic belief system, an operating program that's driving things. It's
Sure.
driving our lives. We need to own that.
in the stories we tell ourselves. That's
Well, the
part of
stories
it.
are the effects of a belief system.
That's true.
You know, their stories have their roots somewhere in a belief system that's been inherited or accepted at some point.
Yeah, my wife all the time, when I start going down the path of going, this happens and this might happen. Well, she goes, it's the stories we tell ourselves. Got to be careful with that. Hey, she's right.
My grandmother taught me in the garden to get to the roots. And so let's get to the root of where that story came from. And maybe it's no longer valid, or maybe it was false to begin with.
That's what we've been talking about. And that's what we'll continue to talk about this whole podcast, the series in general. That right there, right? So that's the deal. And it's not just what we say, the narratives. It's the myths that we believe are part of our society and part of our life, which is Campbell was all about. And here's another interesting word, symbols. Symbols tell the story as well. And again, we don't necessarily think of life in terms of analyzing that. It happens all the time, right? But we don't even recognize the symbol that we already have built into our life that may be just since birth, as long as you can remember them, and we never question them. We never, it never matured, I guess.
There's got to be a root etymology somewhere between symbols and symptoms. Is that which is out there that has been accepted unconsciously for years and years, is it a symptom of a greater problem that we haven't evolved or changed on the inside?
Well, that's a pretty
So the
way
symbology
to connect it, man.
stays the same because we haven't addressed the root that I talked about.
Sure.
We haven't got to the metaphor or the mythology. Now that's meddling.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying my BS might be founded as a mythology. It may have served me at one point, but it really wasn't founded in anything factual.
And we've just done it that way. And the one that comes to my mind just immediately, may not be the greatest one, but think about culture, worldwide culture for the most part, even up to this moment from the time that we can remember have human beings, the misogynistic way that the world has always been ordered. And it was the norm. That's just the way the world was until very recently, when we began to be a little more enlightened about that.
A little more, perhaps, but it shows up in different ways. And this idea, the mythology of greater than and less than, has shown up not only with the sexes, but it's shown up with the races and the religions and the politics. We're better than. That's a mythology that maybe served us in a very tribal way for a while, but it no longer serves. It's a mythology that needs to die.
I agree, yeah. We have to be willing. So this happened to me one time. My dad, I grew up respecting my mom, respecting elders, respecting women and females in general. It's your sisters, your aunts, your grandmothers. It doesn't matter, okay? And I remember one time I went to go carry the suitcase. We were going somewhere, carrying it out to the car. And the response I got was, "You don't think I can do that for myself? Okay, what are you thinking, that I'm the weaker sex and all this kind of stuff?" And it surprised me that there was that kind of comment. And I went, "No, I just respect you enough that I want to help. It has nothing to do with
part of your team."
Yeah, it's nothing to do with you can't do it or I'm the guy and you're the woman. It's kind of like even open the door. I've taught the boys, my son and the boys here, "Hey, where do you think you're going? Your mother first." And again, that's not because she's weaker. It's not because she's more frail.
And if that's the way it's received,
respect.
then the new story is told, I can do that for myself. Let me do that. I need that. So then we work together as partners, which is the new mythology. Thanks for speaking and communicating. Is communication the avenue to change the metaphor, to change the mythology, to change the relationship? And I'm saying yes.
Absolutely.
Everything boils down to communication, which is what we try to do on this microphone. We're communicating with each other as we communicate with new ideas and new paradigms.
Communicating starts with communicating.
Well, and it starts with being willing to communicate. If I'm stuck in my old metaphor, mythology, and story, I will never want to communicate beyond my comfort zone. Maybe it needs to shift and change. Maybe we can co-create something more beautiful.
Well, I think we're absolutely capable of that.
Oh, I know we're capable of it.
Whether or not we press into it or not.
Politically, religiously,
Socially,
emotionally,
exactly.
spiritually, name it.
Yeah, that's right. All the way across the board. So, there's context, right? There for sure. But Campbell believed that myths are metaphors of life. The myths are. So he obviously joined the two of them together, which again, if you study that, if you're at all interested in where this came from that we're talking about and the depth of it all, because we're just going to mine at the very top of the mountain here. He's an amazing guy. So I would encourage anybody that's listening, grab one of his books. And
just one and read a paragraph, because that's enough to fill you.
You're right. But those are the things subtly that guide us that maybe we don't even realize they do. So there's this aha moment that comes. But if we're going to alter the physical reality, relationships, the way the world works, tangible, everything, whether it's the environment, whether it's each other, it alters the physical reality. And we have to first change the narratives, man. If we don't change the narrative, oh, that won't work.
Yeah.
Oh, that isn't really happening, or it's not possible. We have to change that narrative, or guess what you're going to get? The same old thing.
Yep. The
This ain't
definition
rocket
of doing the
science.
same thing, expecting a different result.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
everything in this world was created twice. Everything. It had to be created first in the narrative, in mind, in heart,
Right.
in possibility. And that did not show up on the planet until somebody had the guts and the courage to communicate to something higher. Wait a minute. The
Right.
story I've been telling that it's not possible might be false. Maybe
Maybe.
there's something here.
There's one of my favorite words I
Maybe.
just started adopting. Yeah, maybe. Oh, so changing the world requires, in part, maybe in a large part, of shifting perspectives that will create friction. This is what our podcast is about, right? Looking for the friction. And it's going to happen. As a matter of fact, not only is it going to happen, you're going to bring it on.
Yeah.
As you change your perspective, you're bringing on the friction. You're not just
You're
a
inviting it,
victim
you're
of
welcoming it
Right.
into your environment. That means automatically changing the story of friction is bad and wrong to friction is creating evolution.
Oh, yes.
But
Bring
that's
it.
a huge change
Yes,
for a
it is.
lot of people.
Again, it causes you to have to change some things. Let's just put it that way. Okay. Some things have to change.
A lot of things.
You know? So we talk about the word consciousness all the time because we believe in that deeply. That's as we change to a higher, more aware consciousness, which from my standpoint, I believe that's what he was all about, encouraging us to do that very same thing.
To change your consciousness.
That's exactly right. And he was also the teacher of it and the example of it for sure. And I absolutely appreciate it. I value that so much. When we're upgrading, when we're learning to tell better stories, not just fluffy, more entertaining stories, but stories that seek to like you're talking about, the root of things, that get down there into the muck, into the dirt, whatever it might be.
Workshops with Maria Nemeth in California. And I tell you, this is where I developed the idea of Cobra, cut out the bull right away, COBRA. She would cut to the chase. What you're telling is a rehearsed thing that's automatic to you. But let's get to the bottom of that. There might be a core wound there. There might be a core belief system that's founded in a fallacy that you need to expose. Tell you, the woman was a great excavator. She would dig through the emotions, dig through the tears and the anger and the upset and the friction and the frustration to the great aha that would happen. That's where I began to think.
That's the whoa.
That's when I inherited it or accepted it as my own truth. And maybe it isn't true. Maybe all the suffering I've been going through is founded in a false belief. And now, and I tell you, her workshops were very freeing.
Oh,
Not
I'm sure.
easy. The
I'll
birthing
bet.
process was extremely painful, extremely difficult, with a lot of friction to get to the other. Oh, that exhale that says there's more life for me to experience here.
And more light. Because the birthing canal, it's pretty dang dark. You're still in the darkness, okay? But boy, once you pop out there.
But you have to be willing to go through the birthing canal,
Sure.
the dark night of the soul, to get to the brighter world.
Absolutely.
We as a human race need to be doing that right now on every front, politically, religiously, emotionally.
Yes.
I feel like we are in a dark night of the soul,
no.
but the world looks pretty dark right now.
It does.
And I can tell them, I can tell the myth or the story that it's bad, it's wrong, it's awful, or I can go, something's about to happen here. Something's about to break loose that we haven't seen.
And I want,
I'm going to be part of it.
right? I want, I'm not running from it, okay? I'm in, I'm not, give me some,
I used to
put me in
avoid
a game,
conflict
coach.
at all costs. I used to avoid it. Now it's put me in, coach.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
want to grow me and I want to grow the world at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to talk on the rest of the podcast on two different aspects of the metaphor. There's certainly social and cultural metaphors.
Yep.
Okay. That we'll touch on that. And then, of course, many metaphors that we in the West here, especially as Christian, we have a Christian sort of basis in culture. I'm not going to call us a Christian nation because that's a whole nother argument.
That's a whole
okay?
other podcast.
Yeah. But fundamentally, our faith, whatever that might be, will speak to metaphors. I think you look across the board and that's what mystics use. That's what teachers use because people can relate.
It's understandable. It's I can get the idea without having to get too complicated in my head. I think of the number one word, I thought about this, that you hear young people saying, is something is like that.
Yeah.
It's a great method for learning. Metaphor is a great way to integrate and to let an idea sit in your heart for a minute. Life is like this. And I'm telling you, the kingdom of heaven all over the Bible this is what the kingdom of heaven is like. So let's lean into what is it like? What is God like? What is life like?
Yeah, there it is. Those are great ways to help the aha moments come, to help I never looked at it that, because that's really what this whole metaphor thing is about. I never looked at the kingdom of God like a mustard seed. All these things that you'll read, you go, what is that all about? So we owe it to each other to expand not our vocabulary and our perspective and help each other to do this thing.
That's the core wound. You mentioned Maria Nemeth. I used to hold this core wound that life is like a raging river throwing you against the rocks. And now I've learned that life is like a beautiful ride to the ocean of possibility. And if I allow it to buoy me up, it will take me to the ocean. I will float. Same river, different perspective.
Yeah, that's right. We talk about perspective is key. There's no doubt about that. Just to touch on maybe a few little social metaphors, right, that we have experienced. Life is a battle. We tend to look at that. We'll say that. How about to life is a dance?
I love that.
Yeah, you
Life
came
is
up with
like
that, man. I
a
love that.
dance.
Yeah.
I tell you, that changes everything about the energy that you're putting out and inviting into your life. Those who are looking for a battle and say that's what life is like, will find it. And those that are willing to dance will find other dancers.
Yes. And I did a meme one time for one of our podcasts, and it said, the universe is asking you to dance. Step on the floor. Come on. It's asking all the time. Right?
Yes.
It's just a matter of whether you're going to get up off the chair like the middle school guys and the girls are sitting on the other side.
Oh my God, everyone's watching me. That's okay, because they might want to follow.
That's right. We've done that thing with the first follower.
You did a video that's the first person to get on the dance floor gives permission for everybody else to be a fool, to be wrong, to be silly, to be the leader of the next paradigm. I love that.
You do it together.
And the invitation is always present.
Absolutely. So life is a dance, okay? We heard this. Here's another one. Time is money. We get sucked into this whole thing, especially in Western culture, with the way everything works. You know, the Benjamins, we talk about that all the time. Time is money. There's a metaphor. 2, time is sacred. Now all of a sudden, where's the focus?
On the moment, and the preciousness in the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is a now experience. I don't believe you can experience heaven or God anywhere but right now.
Yeah.
And when I constituted it's money, let's hurry up. I got to make the next buck. That's the suffering place.
Yeah.
This is a sacred moment. Right now, this conversation, this being, this whatever it might be, experience is holy. Why? It changes everything.
It does. And what I think of when you say that, it's the mystery. You just can't leave the mystery out of the equation. If time is money, I can touch the money. I can hold a Benjamin. There it is. And it's a barter system. And it has all these physical attributes, right, that flows from the money. One of the things that I always say is currency is current.
I'm seeing the current moment.
So you just have to look at this whole thing again. Differently, use different words. And once you start to use different words to explain something that you thought you were explaining, now all of a sudden it takes on a whole.
In my relationship and my position, a lot of people say, oh, I'm sorry I took your time. And I said, you can't take my time. I'm offering my time as a precious gift. It changes the whole dialogue. It takes away the rush and the push to get through it and accomplish something to let's just be present to the moment as a gift.
Yes. And there's great value in that, because what you do in that is you value the other person.
It's the same experience. It's the same relationship. All that's changed is the thought, the story, the myth on the inside about it being something more valuable.
Everything has greater value to some degree, if you can look at it that way. Nothing is stagnant. Okay, done.
Yeah.
So I love that dynamic of the universe, we can start to call it.
What else you got? You got some more social motive metaphors?
I do. Last one I just had 3 of them. Climbing the ladder of success, right? Have that vision in our mind. Or we'll even say something like, that ladder was on the wrong wall. As you go through life, you're climbing higher and higher, sometimes over others, whatever it might be, but you're always trying to strive for this physically higher thing, which typically means more stuff, more wealth, more recognition, more
Sure.
power, whatever it might
More
be,
measurement
right?
of
Yes.
external realities.
And there's a bunch of them. These are just a few, but we have them all around us. And mostly, I think if you look at them, they're going to be self-serving. You somehow or other, you wrap those around. How does that affect me? How does that benefit me? If I describe it or I look at it or I pursue it
Yeah.
in that way.
I love the idea of a ladder. And again, it is a change of a story. I don't know if it's a metaphor. That's the way most of the world looks at the ladder. I'm climbing up to a higher for my own well-being, my own good. And I remember the moment, I don't know where I first heard it, that the ladder is like life. And in order to get to, you cannot get to the next rung unless you reach up and allow yourself to grab somebody's hand who's at a higher place. But that person will not reach up until you have reached down to help somebody who's at a lower rung. And that we create this great chain of oneness, of connection,
trust
that none of us is raising without the other going up. Now, that's a huge shift from the ego that I have had at one point, and most of the world has. I'm in it for myself. I'm doing this on my own. I will walk over you. You can't, because there'll be karma on that. You'll eventually slide back down. I have to reach down and be a servant in order to be served by others.
Spoiler alert. You use the word. We got a podcast episode in the making. You use the word karma. Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Okay. Don't run for the hills. All right. 'Cause that's a really cool topic as well. All right. So that's just a few social metaphors. Then we can press into some of the faith-based metaphors, and they're full. The Bible's full of them.
Tons.
Right? Oh, yeah.
One
Because that's
after
the
the
way
other.
they explained things, especially in the ancient world, because we didn't have everything socially and technology-wise and all that kind of stuff. They were telling stories. That's the way it got transferred.
That's why
right?
Jesus was such an incredible teacher. He used story, metaphor, in order to help people reveal what they needed to reveal.
Absolutely. But the challenge with that is, let's even take the metaphors that Jesus used. He used those metaphors to speak to those people. And it resonated with them because they were pastoral. They were agrarian. This was the culture. This was who he was speaking to. Anyway. And so is that applicable necessarily for today? You can be in a Bible study and they can you can learn about the context. Oh, here's the way shepherds did it in those days. They slept here so that the sheep couldn't get out. And so they were the gate.
It's
and all that
important
kind of stuff.
context.
Sure. There's the point, to the point. All right. Great, that related. But we're here today, 2,000 years later. We don't necessarily have to think that the truth of it changed, but the way that we relate it certainly needs to be looked at. Now, I'm not saying you have to change everything, but without analyzing a little bit to say, are we being relevant here? Are we using the right metaphors? Are we telling the right stories in the right way today? And my response to that would be, probably not completely, because we're still using those metaphors from way back.
I'm going to keep it real simple because that's what I do. It's like a Frenchman trying to teach a lesson to the Spaniard who does not speak French. In his own language, there is a disconnect.
Yeah.
I need to learn Spanish. I need to speak the language of the current culture. And I think if you look at ministries, those that are willing to adapt and look at the language of the current culture are the ones that will grow. They can meet people at the level of their experience.
Right. Keyword, adapted.
Yeah.
If we don't learn to adapt, and at all situations in our life, I go across the board. When you are trying to navigate, when you're trying to tell the story, get from point A to point B, if you continue to keep looking at the whole thing in the same way, you're going to miss it. You're going to completely miss it because you continue to look at the journey in exactly the same way, and you're going to see the same things.
And you miss perhaps a greater depth,
Yeah.
a greater information there. Charles Darwin, you said the word adaptable. He finally changed his mind. It used to be survival of the fittest. But what he shifted to was survival of the most adaptable. Right. Those who are willing to change the metaphor, the myth, the story, and to look at things in a different way. To just, okay, that's not working anymore. Let me look at it this way. There's a greater truth there that I knew.
If you
And
don't
those who aren't willing
adapt,
to do that are dying off. Here's a human race. If we can't do that, are going to die off.
I used to use this another metaphor in my business and said, if you're standing still, you're eventually going to get run over. You know what I mean? The world is, like we talked about before, God, the universe is pulling everything forward, and that means it's moving. If you're stagnant, sooner or later, something's going to come and roll over you. May not be a semi, but point is,
Some people call that the 2x4 of God knocking you upside the head.
good.
I don't know. That sounds a little violent to me, but that life is moving in the direction of evolution. And if we're not cooperating with evolution, we're going the other way, which
Well,
is
that's right.
devolution. We are
Devolution. Devolution.
Devolving.
Devolving. There's ancient metaphors that, again, worked then, but the minute you try to bring them forward, you're gonna subject that speech, that conveying that message to misinterpretation, because that's not us anymore.
Yeah. And it's not that the message has no value. It has just as much value as it did, but the delivery system is not working anymore. So it has to be applicable to life today.
It's just, it's gonna be misunderstood, and then you have a whole nother bunch of friction that gets created, and it didn't need to be. I guess that's my point. Friction is friction, but we don't need to create it where we don't need to create. You know, we've been talking in recent episodes about the idea of the theistic God that we're basically at and have been, again, since time memorial.
Sure.
We give a personality, we give a view, we give a picture, all these kinds of things, and they take on the anthropomorphic side of a human being.
And the collective human consciousness, that's all that they could conceive of at the point.
Exactly.
It was a step in the evolutionary process, a necessary one. It's not bad or wrong, but we stopped. And we're holding on to the idea of this personality-centric God made in our image that's a myth that needs to be set down for a minute.
It does. And if for us to continue to move along the path and higher path I'll use, that I think we've talked about this together. That's a metaphor that we need to let go of. Right. But it can be replaced by, it's not like we need to let go and just, we're done now. All right. There is no God, or there is no higher power, or there isn't anything like that.
It's not a U-turn.
No. But the way we talk about it will change. And some of these metaphors, and these are tough, man. We talked about it earlier, right? These are tough. But probably one of the biggest, in my mind, metaphors that we look upon God, we give God the Father, right? Connect those two as something that we can relate to, but it's not necessarily the best way to relate God in any way. Okay, first of all,
I know a lot of people who did not have a good relationship with Father, and that image is scary to them.
This is exactly the point, that when you use that, Jesus was trying to relate in that day, in that culture, in that time, because the Father had he could be strict and all that other kind of stuff, but he was the shepherd over the family.
Provider.
All right. We're going to have to lay down that kind of connection. We tell a story in a way that I think binds us, that doesn't let us understand.
So let me go on the bunny trail. You keep the reins this time.
Okay.
Is our current society, our current culture that has running a mythology, for the most part, that God is something to be feared, an energy or an angry, vengeful energy to be feared? Is it now driving us to fearing ourselves?
That's a great point.
Narrative and that energy system is going, we're getting farther and farther. We're afraid of everything. We're afraid of each other. We're afraid of these conversations. So it's just easier to hold up in our houses and not step out the door. Don't go to the edge, because we have a basic belief, a false belief system that life is to be feared, that life is the turbulent river that's going to throw us against the rocks. That's the kind of God we believe in, and it's showing up in our interactions with each other and our relationships.
This is when you say, if I believe that, if I look at it that way, if that's the metaphor that I use, then what's the consequence to that? And it ain't all fluffy rainbows and unicorns.
Nope.
So again, it's an awareness level that we just have to open up to say, oh, I didn't realize that can have that kind of effect on culture, society, myself.
Change the view from God as a steamroller to God as a warm blanket. The metaphor changes, and I tell you, the experience will change when we see that there is something more loving. And I think Christianity has done this. The more modern Christian teachings are moving in that direction. I'm saying we need to move faster.
I think it's gaining momentum. I really do. So I'm encouraged by that. So I'll give you one other one before we wrap up. There's others. You can imagine them yourself. How about this one? There's a lot of metaphors in the Bible about war and fighting and armor and protection. This speaks back again to your use of metaphors in an aggressive, that you have to either defend or you have to go attack. All right. So that whole thing, we got to change. All right. But I thought this was the one that struck me as I was going through this. We look at God as the potter, and we are the clay. The Bible says that directly. But what does that, if you think outside the normal metaphor, where does that really, what kind of picture does that paint of God? That we're clay to be molded by God in his fashion, in his design, when in fact, I look at it like God took us like the lump of clay and threw it in the middle and said, okay, what are you going to become?
And that's at the risk of being blasphemous here. What if God is the clay and we are the molders? God is the energy of life itself, saying, create from me by what you're thinking, by what you're feeling, by what you're doing. Use me. And God, maybe there's that intelligence that says, why are you choosing to make that? Why don't you make something different?
Yeah.
Now, that's a huge paradigm shift from God as a controller, as God as the substance of life, asking us to mold it.
And I think that, and in that, because again, we got to be careful we don't create the God in our image. I think the beautiful part of that metaphor, that analogy would be for now. Okay, here's what I'm going to do with the clay now. And here's all I can see.
But I can change. That's great.
Exactly.
I can make something different tomorrow. I didn't like what I made yesterday.
Yeah, it's like the stuff the Jack's got. Play-Doh.
Play-Doh.
Boom. Okay, I'm just going to wad it up and put it in the container. And now I'm going to bring out something else next time.
And there is an edge to that metaphor. The reality is it is wisdom and it is guidance. It is love, always leaning. It's got some intelligence in this co-creative process. But we can form it as opposed to it forming us.
Absolutely.
And maybe it's a both and reality, not either or.
I think that's where I probably would land it, that it's an interactive thing that happens because it's beautiful. We're co-creating together.
Yeah.
I think that's what God loves.
And that's just an idea. As we started, we throw the idea on the table. I don't know where I really land on it, but if we don't ever know where we land, if we don't explore it.
Right. Yes. So there we are. We want exploration. So let's wrap it up with this. I think this is a great way to end it. Taking the foundational truths of our faith and reimagining them for today's culture, values, past traditions. We're not throwing a baby out with the bathwater, okay? While upgrading, okay, there's a modern term that we can scoot in here, while upgrading the purpose, perspective, and practicality of that metaphor, of that way we look at it, right? We have a new world that requires new words to resonate in an evolved way.
We're going to upgrade the operating system, but it's still valuable.
Absolutely. Okay. So anyway, there we are, man. I love pressing into this Joseph Campbell stuff. Maybe one day we could tell the story about how watching something of his was just life-changing. We don't have time today. So thank you.
That might be a good podcast. Life-changing moments.
Yeah.
Made you the man or the person or the woman you are today?
Yeah.
What was that moment?
Talk about those higher points or even lower points, just as you go through life. That's about how to tell your story. So, all right, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
So cool. Myths and metaphors. And check out Joseph Campbell. All right. So with that, we'll leave it and we will see you next week. Thanks,
Tell
everybody.
a good story.